Well, thanks, Mark. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen and we're going to jump right into this. So thanks, everybody, for joining. This is the last, I believe, at least common session of the day. My name's Andrew Heilman. I am the Director of Customer Success at Rehearsal. So I've got a team of folks behind me and with me that have, I think, helped. I don't know how many clients, we're well into the hundreds of clients implement Rehearsal within their organization. And so I'm here to just share a little bit of the best practices that we as a collective group have learned to kind of share with you guys. So I'm going to try and get through these fairly quickly. And the reason for that is I'm going to anticipate that lots of people may have questions. We've spent much of the day leading up to this point talking at a lot of a theoretical level, a planning level, really that high level. And so we're going to actually start to dig into just a little bit of the details over the next period of time. So first of all, I'm just going to start with something I've come to learn through all my experience, not only here at Rehearsal, but even prior to that. There are some key elements that are just necessary, and these aren't, none of these are groundbreaking, but key elements that are necessary when you implement a tool like Rehearsal. That is a tool that is digital in nature. It's a software component, but is really focused on helping your individuals learn or develop their skills or in some way enhance their capabilities within your organization. So all of my learning or all of the things that I share, all of the best practices are going to sort of fit into one of these four areas. And I'm going to touch on just a couple within each. The most important one that I'm going to focus on today is that last one, focusing on your people, because I think that's a really important piece to understand when you implement Rehearsal, is really understanding all of the people that are involved and are impacted by implementing such a solution. So again, none of these are groundbreaking, but just to kind of talk through these top four here, one, have a plan. That's obvious. But what we're going to really focus on in my time today is not just having a project plan and a timeline, but really taking the time to understand that we know how this rollout looks and feels for everybody involved. That's really important. The second one, again, an obvious one, but gain senior leader support. Now, what's really important for this is not just that you have somebody to sign off on you implementing such a program and agreeing to sign that check and purchase a platform like this, but there are actually key moments in a customer journey for us where getting a senior leader or multiple senior leaders involved can just really help ramp your adoption. So we're going to talk about that. Thirdly, ownership. We all know that ownership of a project is important. And Rehearsal is no different when we say that having a primary owner is really, really vital to your project. But there's a lot of opportunities for other people to own pieces or components of the overall project. So we're going to identify some of those opportunities. And then last, and as I said, where we'll spend the most time, because we really think it's actually one of the most important elements, is focus on your people. Focus on the role that they have to play as a part of this rollout and adoption, and really understand what you can do to make their experience the best possible. If you were on our previous session and you heard Katie Petty talk about what they've done at 3M, she used a phrase or an expression that I really like. We talked to a lot of our clients about it, which is, you know what, if the best you can hope for is that your learners say, I didn't really love doing Rehearsal, but I know it made me better, that's a big win. And so being able to at least get to that, we would all love to be able to hear our learners say, actually, I really enjoy the experience, or it's been really beneficial for me, and I would love to do more of that role play. We would all love to be able to get to that place, but we all know that's not entirely reasonable. But I think it is very reasonable to get to a place where your learners and your mentors recognize the value that they get from participating in a Rehearsal program. So that's where we're going today. So I will just throw it out that as we go through this, if you have questions, pop them into the Q&A. We'll make sure we get those answered either by myself, or I know I've got some of my colleagues on here as well that can jump in and answer questions. So first of all, have a plan for adoption. Identifying a goal or an outcome is really important in the sense of, we want our learners to be able to handle competitive threats when they're in a selling situation better, or we want more consistent product messaging amongst our sales reps. It might even be, we want to be able to have a tool that helps us teach our managers and mentors how to be better mentors. Whatever it is, have a goal. And then have a plan for that. Again, we're not talking necessarily just about a rollout plan, just, okay, we're going to do this on this date, and this is when we want people to complete activity by. Those are always going to be a part of any rollout plan. But what we're really talking about is, accounting for how you're going to handle resistance among any of those participants, whether it's learners or mentors, how you're going to deal with and overcome technical challenges that might come into play as a result of doing this with a distributed workforce. So really thinking through those things are what is going to be important, and really helps you make sure that you hit that timeline that you have on a rollout or an adoption plan. Second, again, this one's a no-brainer, but set and communicate your expectations for everybody. Rehearsal is not just about the learners. There are, as I said, a number of other people that are involved, could be involved, should be involved. So making sure that you also set up all your participants for success. Not only telling learners what you want them to do and when you want them to accomplish it, how you would like to behave, how would you like them to submit and behave sort of on camera. We talked about that with Katie. Some of our clients do want people to treat this as a professional situation. We want you to treat it in a way that you're making eye contact with the camera, and you're, sitting in a good position, and you're engaging. Some clients don't care about that as much, but understand what kind of expectations you want for your learners and communicate that clearly to them. Not only the first time you give them an assignment, but consistently until they build that habit and that becomes muscle memory for them. Second of all, your mentors. Mentors have a really key role to play here, and that's something we'll touch on a little bit later as well. Learners are being vulnerable when they are submitting videos. We think, gosh, we're all on video, we're all on screen these days, we're talking to one another, but there is a different element when you are recording yourself and submitting that off to somewhere, someone, for them to be able to view and review that. And so that's a vulnerable place to ask learners to be. We talk at Rehearsal about Rehearsal being a safe place for people to practice, because it is. They do have that ability, as Jeff demonstrated in his demo of the platform, they do have that ability to record themselves and review themselves before they submit to a mentor. But once they submit, they've been put into a vulnerable spot. And so it's really important for mentors to honor that vulnerability, to give prompt feedback, to give helpful, feedback and communication and coaching, as opposed to just, great job, you did it, you did the exercise, let's move on, right? We want more for our learners than just hearing their manager or their mentor saying, great job, and moving on. And then as well, there are opportunities for leaders to get involved. And so we're looking for those opportunities and communicating with them and to them about where you'd like them to get involved in your programs, and making sure that they can. Next, so gaining senior leader support. This was, again, one of our key 4 items. We all know that senior leaders are important for a couple of reasons. One, they get the ability to set the tone at the beginning of your program. And so, of course, we always want to make sure we have that. But they also get to help when you have competing interests at play. We all know that we are taking, especially when you launch Rehearsal into a sales organization, you are taking selling time away from sellers. And when you do that, that becomes a very difficult thing to do. We all know. So we want sellers out selling. Yes, we want them developing their skills, but we want to make sure that we're doing that in the most the best use of their time. And so that competing interest is always going to come to play at some point. Whereas when you have a senior leader that says, no, we're asking them to spend 15, 20, 30 minutes a month on this, we need them to complete that. We know that that is valuable time for them, that they will get immense benefit, and the organization gets immense benefit from taking that little bit of time out of their day, out of their week, out of their month to be able to do their role play, or for managers to be able to mentor their individuals through their role plays. And again, as I said, there are strategic opportunities that you have throughout a program to really engage leaders and help drive adoption even deeper into the organization. So that's really important. Now, some opportunities for those engagements among senior leaders. First of all, a lot of times we will recommend to clients, if they can, get a senior leader to not only introduce the effort of Rehearsal, that is to say, hey, we've got this new tool called Rehearsal. Here's why we're using it. Here's how we're going to use it. And here's what you can expect as a learner to get out of the time that you put into doing your rehearsal role plays. So they have the opportunity to launch that initial message and really set the tone for the organization. Secondly, we've seen a number of clients do this, and it has never fallen flat. I will say that. We see many clients will actually get that senior leader to record the first prompt video. Maybe they don't do the actual prompt, but they'll come on the screen first and again, reinforce that message. Hey, here's why we're doing this. Here's why this is important. Here's why I need you to take it seriously and devote the time to it. So we see a lot of benefit from learners and mentors seeing their senior leader in the platform the first time or two that they actually come in. Again, demonstrates buy-in from that leadership level. Beyond that, there are plenty of opportunities for leaders to get engaged. Things like having leaders pop in and review some of the submissions that have been nominated to a leaderboard. If a sales rep sees that their senior leader has come in and given them kudos, told them, hey, that's a great presentation, that's a great response, again, sort of reinforces the idea that senior leaders are looking at what is being done in the platform and they value it. We've seen some clients actually make sort of a compilation video of some of the best responses and play that compilation video at a sales training, be that the annual sales training or some other event. So again, giving learners the ability to see one another as well, see how good some of the other peers are. And hopefully, as Katie said, salespeople are competitive people. So it gives them the opportunity to see who's the best and what do I have to strive to accomplish in order to be able to be one of the best myself. And then even simple things like just having senior leaders jump into the platform and coach themselves, randomly jump into a particular learner, whether because that learner is doing a great job, or maybe that learner actually just needs a little bit more encouragement and a little bit more coaching. To get that kind of encouragement from a senior leader to say, hey, you're doing a great job. I want you to keep working on these things because we see that you're improving. So keep working on it. Again, just great opportunity to be able to drive adoption deep within the organization. All right. So next, designating ownership. So as I said, I think it's always important to have a primary owner of any launch of a rehearsal program or project. But there are plenty of opportunities to actually share responsibilities. And I think that's actually really important. Katie talked a little bit about this, and I asked her a real leading question on it, which is getting other organization or getting other divisions or areas within the organization involved, be that marketing, be that compliance, be that anything else. You've got a lot of opportunity to do that. So consider who can share in responsibility of such a large initiative or an effort. Who within the organization can design your scenarios? Having strong scenario design is a real big thing. I'm going to probably preach to the choir here on this, but we see a lot of our sales-driven organizations that use Rehearsal. We really try and coach them on a lot of those. I think a lot of the things that very traditional L&D folks think of. Am I asking people to do something very specific? Am I giving the best opportunity to evaluate and coach individuals? So really thinking through scenario design is important. There's video prompts that need to be recorded and given. And again, that might be a way to tap either senior leaders or some other area of the organization. We always recommend that clients record sort of what does good look like, some sort of an example of what would a best practice response look like on any particular scenario. So you could actually ask some of your best field reps to record those, because you know that they do that skill well, or you know that they have that particular product demo down tight. And so asking them to actually be the one to record that everybody looks to either mimic or emulate is a great opportunity. Defining the standards by how you're going to judge all of those submissions. That's a really important one. Designing a really strong rubric so that mentors have a very focused but very effective set of guidelines for them to be evaluating. I think it was in the blind zebra demo, I think it was talked about how important it is to focus on coaching in just even that simple interaction that they went through. There's also the ability to review what are mentors doing in the platform. So take a sample of all of the mentor responses. Katie touched on this a little bit. She likes to highlight who is recording video in their coaching and feedback that they're giving to learners, and calling those out. That's a big win. And then finally, what are we going to report on, and how are we going to report on it? Why is it important? And how are we going to continue to elevate the message that the work that gets done in the platform is of vital importance to the organization? So finally, my sort of last element here, focusing on your people. This is really important. And again, an area where I'll share sort of a couple of different elements. You've got a lot of different roles going on in Rehearsal. You've got learners, you've got mentors, you've got the potential for leaders to participate. And each one of those groups has a different mechanism or sort of a different motion in what they go into the platform and do. And so making sure that you have thought about what is it that we want learners doing? How do we want mentors coaching and giving feedback? And where are we going to give our leaders opportunities to jump into the platform and participate and see what's going on? Really thinking through all of those experiences is important, because what you want to do, of course, is equip everybody from the start. So for learners, Rehearsal is about skills, right? Really focusing on what are we asking them to do? What are we asking them to demonstrate? And being as concise as possible. That skill, we always say it's ideal if it's linked to specific outcomes that the business is trying to achieve, or specific strategies that are important for the business's survival and health or expansion moving forward. Skills should be clearly defined. They should be observable, and they should be measurable. Again, thinking about as a mentor, I need to be able to see, okay, I've got my list of 3 things I'm going to look for in this video, and focusing on, have they done those things, and at what level are they performing on each of those? So that also helps set up well for your mentors when you understand, what are we asking learners, what kinds of skills are we asking learners to exercise on? And being very deliberate about keeping that to 1 or 2 skills in any particular scenario. Scenarios where you're asking them to do 3, 4, more things, obviously is harder for a learner. It's harder for a mentor to be able to coach and evaluate and really focus on areas where they need focus. So that's one thing that we really work with clients when they're sort of initially bringing their programs on board, is making sure that their individual scenarios are as concise and narrowly defined as possible, so that you're not asking a learner to record a 7 or an 8 minute video. Now, there are times that might be appropriate, but think about, Jeff's statistic of learners will hit that record button about 6 times. If you're asking a learner to spend a 10-minute presentation, you've now probably given them an hour's worth of work, and that might not be the right amount of time that you want them working on that. So really keeping that as focused as possible. This one is really important. Think about what you're asking learners to do. We like to talk about the fact that rehearsal gives you 3 opportunities. It gives learners the ability to practice, it gives mentors the ability to develop, and it gives the organization the ability to evaluate. Now, it's reasonable to say that you're going to do 1 or 2 of those things in every scenario, but think about exactly what you're asking to be done in any particular scenario. I think hopefully you've heard throughout the day, there is tremendous value in just the practice element. There might be times where you might ask a learner to just do something because you want them to just simply get the reps in, get that practice. Most scenarios involve some sort of practice and development, but also some of them are just about evaluating. We really want to understand, I think even Katie mentioned this too with their new hires, we want to just understand what the level of our people is at so that we know how to then take them to the next level. So evaluation might be a fair thing to do as well. So clearly defining what each scenario is set out to do in terms of 1 or 2 of these 3 elements. And then making sure that you're creating opportunities, not tasks. Again, that's really important. Rehearsal should be seen as a platform that helps me get better as a learner. That's what we want. If all it is a task, and there's a number of things that go into it, as we've said already, that's not only how you're designing scenarios, but how mentors are engaging with your learners, but making sure that everybody is aware we are striving for opportunities for our learners, not just tasks. The other side of this, being really conscious about all your participants, is equipping your mentors well. We always like to say that mentors actually make or break the experience of rehearsal for your learners, and it will set you up either for success or failure. So equipping your mentors well is of vital importance. This is sort of the other side of the coin of an item that I mentioned earlier, which is identify those coachable areas. What are the skills? What are the talk tracks? What are the words that we want our people using, saying, demonstrating? And identify them very clearly for your mentors. That's what you want them evaluating, not all the other stuff. So being really focused on that. And I think, as I said earlier, make sure they're observable and they're measurable. Defining what good looks like, giving mentors an idea of what level do we want people performing at for any of the things that we're asking them to do. Giving mentors that sort of bar or that ideal is really helpful. I think Katie also touched on the idea that you might record sort of here's what a best response looks like, and even give it to your learners. Let them be able to see that. Let them be able to work towards that as a bar. That also helps mentors when they are evaluating things. So the way that's going to help them is making sure that they know what should go to the leaderboard because it is an outstanding demonstration of the skill that they've been asked to do. So giving mentors very clear evaluation criteria. We talk a lot with clients about rubrics in this particular area. And really, it's if you give a mentor a 1 to 10 point scale, what is a 6 versus what is a 7? That's something that might be a bit of a subjective or a judgment call for any given mentor if you don't clearly define what those are. We tend to tell clients to try and actually keep their sort of scoring systems as small and as narrow as possible. If you've got a 3-point system, 1, you need some additional development. 2, you're doing great. You're right where we expect people to be. And a 3, you're exemplary. We want to make sure that we share that particular submission with a leaderboard because we know that's an outstanding one. So again, being really as concise as possible, but as prescriptive as possible about exactly how you expect mentors to evaluate things. So that's it. Those are my best practices. Quick check on time. I think we're doing well. I'm just going to pop over and see if there are open questions. So Robert asked a question of what kind of performance metrics are organizations using to report to leadership the business impact of using Rehearsal. Robert, I think there's a number, and this one is one that will certainly obviously vary by client. But some clients, for some clients, I would call them a little bit more of subjective in the sense that mentors are evaluating their learners. Mentors are trusted to say, hey, I am coaching people to that sort of at least best practice, right? As I'm coaching people towards that bar. And so for some clients, it's about that learners are submitting and mentors are properly evaluating. And for some clients, that's what they want to see. For some clients, we've seen them try and correlate things like the completion rate of any given maybe division or sort of region or group, and trying to correlate their learners' participation and their mentors' mentoring to sales performance metrics. So we have seen people try and do the best. It's not a perfect science, obviously, but really try and tie where do we see strong sales performance, I won't say caused by, but sort of correlated to high performance and achievement within their rehearsal activities. So we've seen that. For some people, for some clients, it's about getting to a competency level. Now, I know, I think Don earlier said, maybe that's not the greatest type of metric. For some clients, competency is I've gone out and made my first sale, right? And how quickly I've been able to do that. I think that's one that Don said, maybe that's not the best metric, but there are some clients who have certainly looked at that. What not only am I achieving competency within my cohorts, but how quickly am I getting to competency? That's another one that we've seen clients evaluate. So there's a number of different, hopefully that gives you at least a couple of different examples. Everything from simple participation numbers to really in-depth, are we achieving a particular score for each of our participants? It's not 100% score, but are we achieving whatever that that is right for the rubric that metric is? If I use that 3-point score, we're achieving a 66% on more than most of our participants. So hopefully that gives you an example of a couple different options.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Andrew. I think those are all the questions we have right now. Oh, wait, we just got another one. Is there flexibility for the evaluation criteria? Can it be based on a specific age group?
That's a good question. So I would say there is a way to accomplish that. You're going to probably do it through establishing within Rehearsal that grading rubric or the evaluation criteria is going to be set for a particular scenario. So it might be appropriate that you have 3 versions of a scenario. One version goes to your sort of early or new hires. One goes to your seasoned reps. Maybe there's a third one as well. But so there are certainly ways to accomplish that. It's probably about how you build that within the system. But I think there certainly can be ways that can be done, to sort of tackle that kind of an issue. Yeah.
All right. Thank you, Andrew.
Yeah. Thank you, everyone.